Oh, I didn't see you there. I was just laying here, by the fire, relaxing. That's right, your eyes are not deceiving you. The Sea Rabbit now has a U2's collectible vinyl figurine. Myself, in partnership with U2's, are doing a giveaway where 3 lucky people get a free figurine that I will sign. Wherever you want. You want the head signed? I can do that. What about the foot? It's kind of small, but I'll do my best. Even the back. The possibilities are endless. The giveaway will be going till April 17th when these will be officially going on sale, so even if you don't get a free one, you should definitely buy one then. They're limited edition, so once they're sold out, they're gone forever. For now, you can enter the giveaway by clicking the first link in the description. Each step you follow is one entry, so the more you do, the better your chances. This has been a great collaboration with U2's, and speaking of collaboration, let's get on to the video, which is about group projects. And yes, I did just say that to smoothly transition into the video. Most everyone has had experiences with group projects in school before. They're supposed to make people good at working together, but all they really make you good at is surviving group projects, and those are 2 completely different things. To survive a group project, you need to be good at recognizing who is the most likely to slack off and be able to delegate tasks appropriately, so that your group isn't too dependent on that person, but at the same time that person can still contribute something. It's a very fine line, and it's even worse when there are multiple people in your group who need this treatment. Group projects give you the necessary skills to say as nicely as possible that someone has the same mental capacity as a cabbage for thinking that a website URL was the same thing as an APA citation in a research paper. This may or may not have happened before to me, but we'll get to that later. These are not skills for working together in a group. These are skills for tolerating other people. If you can't tell by now, I'm not a huge fan of group projects. I prefer to be dependent on myself for my own grade, not the kid who sits in the back of the class and vapes into his sweater when the teacher isn't looking. Unfortunately, I've had to do a lot of them, and out of all of these group projects, about 3 stand out the most. I'll tell you about them in chronological order, which coincidentally puts them in order of best to worst experiences, so by the end of the video, I hope you'll all be just as angry about them as I am. To start out, it was 1836, aka my senior year of high school. I was in a supposed honors physics class, but it really didn't feel like it because half the time the teacher would have to make sure she was teaching the material correctly in the middle of the problem. So I had a feeling she learned about as much as we did in that class. Anyways, the final project was, of course, a group project, and luckily, we were allowed to choose who we worked with. This is the good experience, remember? What made our group work so well together is that we all had the same mindset, which was, this class is a joke, I'm almost done with high school, and I really don't feel like putting effort into anything at this point, especially this project. But at the same time, we weren't about to bomb the project and kill our grade in the class. This meant doing the bare minimum to still get a good grade, but not put in too much effort. It was a balance. For the project, you had to design a roller coaster that would theoretically work based on the physics principles we had learned. There were certain requirements, like it obviously had to be able to make it through the entire track, in theory, and have at least X number of hills with at least one loop. I grouped up with a couple of my friends, who we'll call Jill and Jinda. These names are in no way similar to their real names. There were 2 parts to the project. For part 1, we had to map out the roller coaster and include all the calculations for each event to prove that it would make it through the entire track. For part 2, we had to build a scale model of the roller coaster, with a separate grade on creativity. The idea was to go with a theme like Candyland Coaster or something and make it all crafty and pretty, which honestly sounded like the least appealing thing to do at the time. We got all the calculations done, and we were left with making the scale model the night before it was due. Of course that was going to happen. Luckily, Jill had a plan. That night in the group chat, he says, "What if we hardly put any effort into this model?" And I was just thinking, okay, we are kind of already doing that because we literally haven't done anything so far. It doesn't get more low effort than that. He clarifies by saying, we could make that our theme, the fact that it's low effort. And with that statement, the genius of Jill's idea hit me. We have to embrace the procrastination, make it our own, and use it to our advantage. It's being so blatantly uncreative that it is creative. We would be able to both put very little effort into this model and get a good grade. He volunteered to build it that night, but honestly, anyone could have done it. A 4-year-old could have made that thing. The next day, I hadn't seen it yet, but I pretty much knew what to expect. From its scrap wood base to the single strand of metal wiring coaster, it was everything I could hope for and more. And that's literally all it was. It was a piece of wood, which looked like it had been taken from someone's trash can, and a single strand of metal wire, which had been hot glued to the board. All the hills and loops were there, and they were all to scale. And the best part, the piece de résistance, was that Jill had written out the name Minimal Effort, the Experience, on the board with Sharpie marker. And that was the name of the coaster. It checked all the boxes it needed to in order to get a good grade, and God did it feel good to get a score just as high as the people who made elaborately themed dinosaur, fairy tale, and space roller coasters. If the second semester of senior year in high school had a mascot, I think it would be our roller coaster. Nothing could better symbolize those last few months like minimal effort the experience could. And that's the best experience I've had in a group project. Now it's time to get angry. Fast forward a year and I'm a freshman in college. I was in a basic level biology class which had a lab component to it every week. We were assigned a final group project where we had to research and make a poster about a degenerative mental disorder. We couldn't choose our groups, and I ended up with 3 girls who I'll call Jally, Jaleisha, and Jashly. These fake names aren't as easy as they sound to come up with. After the groups were announced, the teacher starts assigning topics. He puts a list of suggestions on the board and asks each group what they'd like to do. So the first group chooses Alzheimer's, and the second chooses Parkinson's. And then he gets to my group. Jashly says, "Can we do schizophrenia?" And I'm thinking, Jashly, you fool. What are you doing? Schizophrenia isn't listed on the board. But the teacher's like, well, not much is known about the cause of it, but if you want to, you can. So Jashly turns to the rest of us. I think it'd be really cool if we do schizophrenia. It seems really neat. So we kind of all just mumble agreement, even though it seems like a terrible idea to voluntarily choose a topic that will be extremely hard to research. But the real kicker is when we assign roles to ourselves on which part of the project we do. There were 4 things we had to research about schizophrenia. The symptoms, the treatment, the statistics associated with it, and, of course, the cause. Nobody wanted to have to look up the cause because nobody knows what causes it. Now, one would think that Jashly would take the burden because she's the one who insisted we do schizophrenia, but no, she takes statistics. Then Jally and Jaleisha immediately volunteer to do symptoms and treatment, which left me with the hard part. Alright, this is going well. Off to a great start. It's whatever. If nobody knows anything about the causes of schizophrenia, that's just what I'll say. No big deal. He can't expect me to find information that real scientists haven't found yet. So, over the next few days, I jump into some scientific journals and am immediately overwhelmed. I only understand about half of what I ended up writing for that project. I start with, schizophrenia is caused by a combination of genetic and environmental factors. The specific causes of the mental disorder are by no means definite, but there is evidence suggesting that certain gene abnormalities contribute to its development. And then we get to the part where I have no idea what I'm talking about. The most prevalent of these abnormalities is known as the 22q deletion, but most importantly, COMEs that chromosome 22 is deleted from making the enzyme. But I got something written for my part, so that's what's important. For some reason, I volunteered to be the one to put the poster together. I still don't know why I did that. First, Jaleisha sends me her portion about the treatment of schizophrenia, and my heart sank. The citations are literally just web URLs. If you've ever had to do an official MLA or APA citation, you know that you need a lot more than just a web URL. And for a college research paper, if you don't have proper citations, you can easily be marked for plagiarism, which is a very serious thing. So, I kindly messaged her, "Hey there, You should maybe look into making your official APA citations for your research. Not to be the picky guy or anything here, but we don't want to be marked for plagiarism and get a 0 on the project and maybe kicked out of college or anything. So I got that clarified, and everyone ended up getting their portions of the assignment to me. The presentation went smoothly, and I figured we probably got a pretty good grade. A couple of days later, the teacher hands our rubric back. Let's see, so overall we got a 21.5 out of 25, so not terrible, but I wonder what we missed points on. I'm going down the list. Let's see, presentation, 5 out of 5. Symptoms, 5 out of 5. Treatments, 5 out of 5. Statistics, 5 out of 5. Cause, 1.5 out of 5. Excuse me? I asked the teacher, why did we lose points on this portion? And he said, your group didn't explain the cause well. Bruh, nobody knows what causes schizophrenia. You expect me, a freshman in college, to give an explanation that nobody is entirely sure of? He didn't change his mind. Curse you, Jashley. Curse you for bringing this upon me. Alright, time to get really mad. About 2 years later, I'm in an economics of social issues class. We're given a group project where we basically research and present about some economics issue, but that's not really important. And of course, we can't pick our groups because that seems to be the first step to any terrible project experience. I'm with 4 others who will be Jindy, Jicholas, Gemma, and Jamantha, who we'll just call Jam for short. These actually aren't anything like their real names. Things get off to a bad start almost immediately. We had already discussed who would be doing what parts of the presentation. It was mostly evenly divided, except for I volunteered to be the one to take everyone's portion and put it into a slideshow presentation, and Jam volunteered to put everyone's part into a paper, which we had to turn in. Fast forward a couple of days, and everyone has drafts of their sections in a shared Google Drive folder. I had been reading Jicholas's section, and it looked like a 4th grader had written it, so I kindly messaged the group chat saying that we should proofread each other's sections to make sure that there aren't any grammatical errors. Also, we need to write an introduction. Jam pops in and says, someone else should write that because Thomas, that's me, and I are already doing extra. Then for some reason that is completely beyond me, Gemma feels the need to clarify, we are a team, remember that, smiley face. We have to work with each other, not against. If our group collaboration were a ship, this would be the first leak. I'm not sure what drove her to say that. At the time, it just seemed like a really weird thing to say, but that was it. Apparently, some other members of my group thought differently. Jam comes back with, we are a team, so Thomas and I shouldn't be the only ones doing huge portions. How about you do the introduction? Okay, the leak's getting a little bigger. Then Gemma goes, I'm not stooping down to argue with you. Passive-aggressive smiley face. I don't mind doing the introduction. And whoa, leak got big. The ship is sinking. Somehow my attempt to kindly correct Jicholas's grade school writing and mention an introduction had escalated to a passive-aggressive argument. Jam comes rocketing back with, whatever girl, just get the stuff done. To which Gemma counters using the old, thanks, passive-aggressive smiley face. You too. I could hardly believe this conversation was happening. And I still have all the messages on my phone too. It's pretty much word for word, except I took out some of my useless interjections where I was trying to be helpful. Before I continue, I need to explain something called Turnitin. Turnitin is this software that some colleges use where you can put in a paper, and it will basically cross-reference it to just about every website and journal there is to see how much of it is plagiarized. Then it gives you a percentage of how much of your paper is like everything else. Basically how much of it is plagiarized, whether intentionally or not. So in that same conversation, Jam messages the group, our Turnitin score is super high, so I'll have to redo some portions of the paper that are clearly plagiarized. Everyone, a rubric was given with the outline of what exactly we need to do. I will probably be up all night so we don't get an F on this project. That's frustrating because it's going to be a 20-plus page paper. I hope everyone can learn from this. So apparently she had put everyone's portion into one paper and then run it through the plagiarism detector, and we somehow had a high percentage of plagiarism. Now, I've written lots of research-based papers before, and I never had problems, so I figured it must be Gemma, Jicolis, or Jindy who screwed up somehow. It wasn't a big deal, though. We still had plenty of time to fix it. But I wanted to see who was causing the problem. My guess was Jicolis had somehow done it, even with his terribly constructed sentences. The next day, I started with my own draft. I ran it through Turnitin, and only 4%. That's more than acceptable. Next was Jicolis. A little higher, but surprisingly, only 8%. Both Jindy and Gemma got relatively low scores too. I didn't think it was possible that Jam would be the cause after she practically scolded all of us the other day and complained about how incompetent we were. I ran it through. Jam's paper. 70% plagiarized. She had practically copy-pasted her entire paper from other places. And she had the audacity to tell us, "I hope everyone can learn from this." Question was, what do I do with this information? I'm a pretty complacent guy. I try to avoid conflict whenever I can. So, part of me wanted to not do anything and just see if she fixes it. If so, that's cool, we still get a good grade. Whatever. The other part of me wanted to call her out because of how incredibly hypocritical she had been. I decided to kinda just egg her on a little bit and see what happens. The next day, she mysteriously deleted her paper from the shared folder. I wonder why that was. So I messaged the group chat. "Hey Jam, you mind putting your paper in the group folder? I still have to check if I've repeated any information that you might have already covered. I still need to add some stuff, but all I'm talking about is blah blah blah, insert healthcare stuff here." So I said, "It'd be helpful if I could see what you had yesterday. If you could just copy-paste it into the folder, that shouldn't be too much trouble. It doesn't need to be fully finished or anything." "Well, I'm starting over, so I don't have much done yet. I should have it done tomorrow if that works for you." "Okay, I'll wait till tomorrow. You started over on your entire paper to just add a little more information?" "I'm redoing my paper because I want to structure it differently to get a better grade after talking to the professor. I don't appreciate you questioning me about my paper when in reality, you'll receive a grade for your work and so will I. And I don't want to be rushed, so you can see my portion of the paper when I compile everyone's into the group paper on Monday." I was just curious. That's all. And I agree. You should redo it. If it was even remotely similar to what you had before, that's what gave us such a high plagiarism score. Your paper was around 70%. So this video is going on way too long as it is, so I've got to give the SparkNotes version of what was said after that. But I want all of you to imagine these things being said in a kind of Cruella de Vil manner from the 101 Dalmatians movie, but after she had been dunked in a big pot of molasses. She basically said I'm lying, and claimed she hadn't even put her paper in the shared folder, which was a total lie because I had saved a copy of it on my computer. Then she claimed my paper was 58% plagiarized, and had a screenshot to prove it, but she wasn't going to be quote-unquote immature and childish. Then we kind of reached the mental breakdown part where she says she doesn't care about what everyone else does, we're all going to get separate grades anyways, and if she receives any more negativity from anyone, she's blocking their number and telling the professor about it. So I basically just said, please show me the screenshot. If my paper is that plagiarized, then I want to correct it. I can't find what's wrong with it. She didn't send a screenshot, of course, and said, if you aren't talking about submitting the paper specifically, I don't want to talk to any of you unless it's completely necessary, and I want everyone to respect that. So I just said, this was a disaster. Now I don't know what to change in my paper. And I was ignored from there. I didn't push it anymore because I actually didn't want to get the poor professor involved, as wrong as the whole situation was. That just wasn't worth it for me. And as Jam wished, no other discussion occurred. We turned in our paper. I got a good grade. All was well. But it still makes me pretty angry to think about. And I hope you'll all be angry with me. So the funny thing is that Jam had actually graduated as a communications major from a different college, which would make you think that she's good at communicating and working with people. But instead, she tried to sabotage our entire project, which was like the complete opposite of good communication. So if there's anything you take away from this video, it's that to be a good group project member, do the opposite of what Jam did. Thanks for watching, and don't forget about the U2's giveaway down below. Anyway, thanks, bye.